Most shippers don't know their 3PL is costing them money until they already bleeding. Bad data, misrouted freight, surprise invoices, no visibility, and by the time you figure it out, the damage is done. Today's guest is a person logistics operators call when they need someone to just tell them the truth. Welcome back to your Bestie in Freight. I am your host Lida, as always, and this podcast is all about real freight, real business, and real talk. And today my bestie is McKenna Phillips from Precision 3PL, Vice President. Now that she started from the ground and built herself up, also logistics content creator who has built a reputation for breaking down the complex stuff in a way that actually makes sense. So McKenna, welcome to my show.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you.
I'm glad to be here. I'm excited to be surrounded by another strong female in the industry.
Thank you,
Definitely
McKenna.
excited to talk about everything.
Yeah, so you have been local about the things brokers and shippers get wrong when it comes to 3PL. So let's start
Yes.
from there. What's the
Okay.
number one mistake you see?
So from So I have a pretty difficult job from the beginning, right? Because first off, in the 3PL industry, it's very saturated. And there are so many different providers, right? And everyone has their strong suit. Some do things better than others, and, they market that accordingly. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what they say they do well. It all comes down to the execution and at the time when the business needs that execution, at the most crucial time. So whether it be, Christmas time or something like that, that is the make or break of a good partner or just, like a service provider. So um in my with the business that I run, so first off I wanted to clarify I'm the president of the company, not the vice president, but I've moved my way up through my time in logistics. It's been over a decade, and I have found the that it's hard running a business, and I want to make it as easy as possible. And at the end of the day, operations and warehousing, that's my strong suit. That's where we really shine. And so the goal is for any 3PL provider to make your partner's life that much easier. I refer to it a lot as take the headaches out of logistics. A lot of times the folks that we partner with, and I'm sure other folks in the industry, they're wearing a lot of hats, they're under a lot of stress. And so any way that, a 3PL or any provider can take off that stress and just that mental load so that they can shift their focus towards the growth of their business and the strategy is a win in my book.
Let's get back to your story. I would
Yeah.
love you to share how you started and how you grew yourself
Yeah.
to president.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started as a little baby. I was 21 years old and I was working at a grocery store here in the Wilmington, North Carolina area. And to be quite honest, I didn't like it. I was at a crossroad in my life, and it's funny because the guy that I was renting from, who I met on Craigslist, he came out one day and he was like, "Hey, do you want a job?" And at the time, I was like, "Absolutely, absolutely." So that guy happened to be Chad Hankinson, who is the CEO of Precision 3PL. And he has been, in a sense, a mentor of mine through my entire journey. And not that I can't give myself credit because I started from the bottom. I was one of the first warehouse employees, and I quickly moved my way up. And I helped develop processes, find efficiencies, deal with challenges on a retailer side. So that's where I started servicing a third party Amazon retailer, one of the largest in the footwear and apparel space. And so, as you could imagine, in that space, there's a lot, especially when you're dealing with Amazon Seller Central. Throw in COVID, tariffs. There's just been a lot that we've had to field. But every challenge that myself and my teams have come across, we found creative solutions and we, navigated accordingly. So after COVID, it was decided that we would split from the retailer and Precision 3PL was born. And so naturally, I moved to that side of the business, which I was very excited about because I love taking people's problems and finding solutions for them, especially in an area like operations where I thrive. I understand the language. I know what needs to be done and what has been done and the tried and true just based off of my experience through, I refer to it as baptism by fire. I've learned a lot of my best lessons from, just working through the floor and the school of hard knocks, if you will. And so now we have the opportunity to help other brands and help facilitate their growth, which is so exciting because not only am I a part of it, but I now, as of October, am driving the ship, which is very exciting. So I have so much passion for, the impact and the responsibility that we carry for our brands and the brands that we haven't even met yet. It just is so incredible to me that we are able to work in behind the scenes and help aid in their growth. Some of our biggest success stories, they've grown year over year 45%. That's huge. And they feel it in different ways, but we got to be a part of that. How amazing is that? It just gets me so fired up. I love it.
Yeah, I was actually gonna ask you because we talked about this off camera being
Yeah,
part of the success and seeing the company grow,
yeah,
and you were part of it. It's just really very inspiring and very, happy moment. Also,
yeah,
your
yeah.
business grows, right? When they grow, so that's win-win situation.
Yeah, yeah. And like life moves so fast and business moves even faster. So you really don't take the opportunity to stop and recognize. But I have made a point here in the most recent months to stop and reflect. And, I feel like that's the best way to move forward and to grow. As far as, we are able to appreciate the challenges that we've been through, understand said challenges so that we can make sure that we're implementing certain things in place so that we don't go through it again, or if we have to, we can go through it a little bit easier. And we're able to help brands and, see them thrive. Like, I am so excited at the opportunities that we've already come across and also what's to come because trust me, this is just the beginning.
Yes, I believe you, girl.
Yeah, yeah,
You guys just opened another location,
we
right? So you're
did.
growing. Yeah, tell me more about this new expansion.
So we opened our second facility in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is my baby and my pride and joy. Mostly because it signifies growth, but secondly, because of the location. So the location, I refer to it as Heaven on 23rd. Okay, so it's right down the road from the Wilmington Airport or ILM. It's right down the road from the Wilmington Container Port. And then we are neighbors to FedEx and UPS. It is the dream location for e-commerce fulfillment because we're able to move quickly and we have everyone so close by. So if there's something that comes through, because that's just how life happens, how business happens, that as much as you plan for things to happen, as scheduled and according to the routine, it's just not always going to be the case. But that's where we really thrive is those situations where it's a make or break. We need to execute quickly, and so again, this location has helped aid in that. So this is our fourth facility in our portfolio. We have two in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is where I'm based out of. And then we also have two in Ogden, Utah, which is about 40 minutes north of Salt Lake City. So we have the East Coast and the West Coast representation, which is key to keeping those outbound freight costs low. In every business, especially ones that handle Amazon fulfillment, margins are razor thin. So any way that you can keep those costs low, we want to be able to provide that to our partners. We've found that the most volatile costs are outbound freight because you can't control where that customer is in relation to the location, right? And you most certainly are not going to cancel the order depending on where they're from, right? So making sure that you have the inventory divvied out evenly so that it is less of a burden whenever those, instances, those rural shipments happen, that's key. And then also, being that we are on the East Coast, we have found, in our experience, 70% of the orders organically happen on the East Coast. So we're able to, just like right off the bat, keep those costs low.
Yes, that's very important for sure, and I agree on the outbound part. But in one of your posts, you have mentioned that switching 3PLs feels like diffusing a bomb.
Oh,
Walk
yeah.
me through the right way to do it. What does a clean, protected transaction actually looks like?
So when you're switching partners, it's always going to be difficult, mostly because everyone has their own way of doing things. And that it could be a situation of you are leaving your own in-house fulfillment to move with a partner, or you are moving with another partner and you're switching another provider. Um, the reason why it could be so scary and daunting is because of the communications that are absolutely necessary. And in my opinion, over communication is key because you're able to make sure you have all the details so that you're not leaving anything to chance or assumption because that's where everything falls apart in those gray areas. So again, being that everyone has their own way of doing things, and then you are essentially moving into a different mold, if you will, it's difficult. And just taking that aside, but just you're posed with the decision of just picking a partner. I feel like that is the most daunting because you're not sure how this person is going to handle your business, right? Especially if you are the business owner. Chances are you have grown this from the ground and you've grown it to the point that it is now, to the point where you're like, okay, I am honest with myself and I know that changes need to be. But like a job interview, you work with folks and you speak with them and it sounds like a great idea. And I refer to it as a leap of faith, right? It's very scary to give your baby to someone else, just like, you can relate, you have children, I do too. And giving your pride and joy to someone in hopes that they're going to take care of your baby the way that you would. And that's why, again, it goes back to communication and ensuring that, all of the visions are aligned and the expectations are clear so that when we're hitting the ground running, it's no bumps in the road, it's just smooth sailing, essentially.
Yeah, I can definitely resonate with a baby
Yeah.
example, right? It's like
Yeah.
taking him to daycare, and you want to make sure that they're gonna take care good of the baby. So,
Yeah.
what should be in every 3PL contract that most people leave out? The clauses and terms that protect brokers and shippers when things go sideways.
So, in my opinion, and this is not how other people do it. Okay. So I built the business in a somewhat controversial way. And I did it with my experience with Amazon. Amazon is the largest 3PL provider in the world. Okay. And I've had experience on the other end whenever I was working with the Amazon third party retailer that I mentioned earlier. And they've made it very difficult to track your inventory. They've made it very difficult to understand where your costs are and where all of those dollars and cents are being allocated towards. Um, I understand that, at the end of the day, fees need to be paid. If somebody is providing a service for you, you need to pay for it. But in my opinion, it should be very clear, and it shouldn't be a whole scientific formula, extreme mathematics equation to run your business and understand where everything is. So, in my opinion, I find that straightforward and transparent pricing is key. And it's something that a lot of businesses that I've spoke with have been craving. And, again, I feel like that's how I want to move forward. Putting myself in their shoes always, I want it to be easy, and I don't want them to lose faith in our billings and our invoices. It needs to be clear and straightforward. And so, in my opinion, where a lot of folks miss the mark is those extensive price lists of all of these costs. And basically what we have done to combat that is we've made it into a whole process. So, for example, receiving, rather than breaking out every single item that goes into the process, we just charge unloading the container, receiving it into our system, and the communications to that vendor so that they're understanding of, what's going on. And then in addition to that, giving them access to our WMS has been key. In my opinion, just with any partnership, the breakdowns happen when you are dependent on another person to run your business. Okay. So if you don't have direct access to this third party because they're living their life, right? And as they should, they deserve to be sick. They deserve to go on vacation. They deserve to clock out at 5 o'clock, just like the rest of us. But unfortunately, business doesn't run in the 9 to 5. It continues 24/7. And so having that access is key, So those are a couple ways that I feel that other partners in the industry miss the mark, and that's how we have tried to combat it. And again, try to provide a partnership. That is the difference between Precision 3PL and other third party logistics firms. Is we are in the business of partnership. We are here to grow with you. We are here to support you, and we're here to make it easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Because like business and just e-com in general is so difficult. So if we can make even one thing easier, that's a weight lifted off of your mental load, off of your physical load. And it's just like, it's better for everyone overall, right?
Yeah. Kenna, where do you see AI genuinely making a difference in 3PL and brokerage operation?
So I think that it's going to help in the sense of forecasting and data availability. Again, we give our folks access to all of their movements, but in addition to that, they're craving help on the front of how should I change how I'm doing my business? Should I use a different shipping service? Should I order this, order less of that? Should I adjust pricing? And so, in my opinion, I think that AI is going to be huge on that front as far as like the analytics and making sure that we're making the right business decisions more proactively as opposed to reactive.
I would love to quickly shout out my sponsor, Digital Permit Book. This episode is sponsored by them, and it is a smarter way to manage your tracking compliance. No more paperwork, no more chasing permits and last-minute scrambles. Digital permit book keeps your fleet organized, your drivers moving, and your operation protected. So check them out and tell them your Bestie in Freight sent you. It is digitalpermitsbook.com. And McKenna, are you ready for a rapid-fire question?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, no overthinking. Let's start.
Okay.
Fix bad data first or fix bad contracts first? Which saves more money?
I would say data. Mostly because how are you supposed to adjust the contract if you don't fully understand the data?
Exactly. Multiple 3PL relationships or one deep exclusive partnership?
I love an exclusive partnership. I feel like that's where the relationship happens. That's where, the nuances are developed. Whereas if you have multiple partners, it's difficult to keep track of all of that, and it's difficult to develop those deep-rooted relationships.
Or visibility. What matters more when choosing a 3PL?
So I think visibility, but the experience and the feedback that I've received from others is price. But I will say that, in my opinion, cheaper is not always better. So my advice would be to ensure that you understand all of the costs. And that includes the costs to fix any sort of issues and mishaps that may happen along the way. There are some partners that will not correct their mistakes. Say they misship or they have an inventory discrepancy or something like that. At Precision 3PL, I find that I don't want to roll like that. So essentially what we do is we cover the cost of the mishap as well as the replacement because it's good business and it's the best way to move forward as a partner.
3PL's tech stack or 3PL's team? What actually determines the performance?
Can you just repeat the question?
Yes, the 3PL tech or 3PL team. What determines the performance?
The team, 100%. You can have all of the shiny bells and whistles. There are a lot of folks who have robots and things like that, but with tech, a lot of times you will run into rigidness. And again, as we discussed, business pivots so quickly. And so having the ability to have a strong team with strong communication skills who understands the business and the stakes so that they're able to move quickly and adapt quickly, I think is more important.
McKenna, thank you so much. You delivered exactly what our audience needed.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, what is one advice you would give any woman who wants to get into logistics or who is already in logistics and trying to grow? What would you advise?
So my biggest advice, well, I'm going to speak to the mamas out there because I'm a mom and it's difficult out there. So I would say that you need to invest in yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup, right? So do the things, take care of yourself. And that looks in the ways of working out or taking that minute, be selfish a little bit so that you have a clear mind and a clear conscience. I know it seems very daunting because life is, so chaotic, especially with children. And it just seems like there's never enough hours in the day. But even setting aside 30 minutes to just do self-reflecting will give you so much mental clarity so that you're able to be a better leader, a better mom, a better, partner, a better friend, and you're able to help, thrive and grow in business. So that's my biggest advice.
Very important, definitely, especially in logistics that drains you out and stresses you out. We definitely
Exactly.
need this break. So if you guys want to connect with McKenna, I will have her information under the show notes, but you can connect through LinkedIn, right, and through her email.
Yeah.
And if this episode hit home, please subscribe, share, and with someone who might need this, especially women in logistics. And I will see you on the next one. Thank you, McKenna, again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.